It's This Week in Film. Woo! We're back again. It's been at least 7 days. I'm Nick Panunto. This is Ray Radaminki. We're all alone this week on the podcast where we talk about the movies we've seen over the past week. I'm going to keep saying week. And Ray, how are you?
This week, I'm great.
I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah.
Tony's not here. Charlie's not here.
Everybody just abandons us.
Tony didn't even say he wasn't going to be here.
Yeah.
He just went.
What kind of a move is that?
Yeah.
At least give us a heads up.
Like, hey
guys, might not be there next week.
You know, or the week after.
Yeah.
Something tells me he's not going to be here the week after this as well.
Maybe he thought we'd be disappointed, which obviously we would be, but
some of us would be. I don't know. The listener base is definitely missing Tony right now. Right now, he would say something clever.
There's riots in the streets.
Right. Well, Ray, what did you see this week?
This week, I watched The Nice Guys.
Oh, I watched it this week, too.
Get out of here.
I did. Nice, guys.
If you don't know, The Nice Guys stars Russell Crowe, Ryan Gosling, as a dynamic duo of private eyes who are both looking for the same person, basically. It's directed by Shane Black, who wrote a lot of great late 80s, early 90s movies.
Mm-hmm.
He's been getting into directing more lately. He directed, Iron Man 3?
Yep. Which is a movie that I like more and more every time I see it.
Yeah, that's one I saw in the theater, and I don't think I've seen it since. So
I recommend checking it out again.
Yeah.
It's definitely much better than when you watch it the first time. And I've had to watch it about 1 million times.
Well, then you would know.
I do. I'm an expert on Iron Man 3.
So Shane Black directed this one as well. Like I said, it stars Russell Crowe, Ryan Gosling. They're both kind of private eye gumshoe detectives in late 70s Los Angeles. And they kind of get caught up in conspiracy, a web of lies.
This is where I kind of started getting confused with the movie.
Yeah, the movie, I thought as well, was very confusing in just like the plot and where everything was going. I mean, you had a general sense of what they were trying to do. And
yeah.
They're basically trying to find this girl who has gone missing.
Yeah.
What was her name? I can't remember what her name was.
Not Misty.
No. Amelia.
Right.
They're trying to find Amelia.
Misty Mountains is the girl in the beginning.
They're both kind of brought in to this search for different reasons.
Yeah.
Russell Crowe's like the hard-nosed, like enforcer type of guy who also does like private detective work.
Right.
Ryan Gosling is kind of like the down-and-out private eye who's just looking to make money, basically. He doesn't have any money. And he has a young daughter who I thought was great in the movie.
I did too.
I thought she was the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
She's with them every step of the way. She's very funny. What is her name, the actress that plays her?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
She definitely wasn't like a kid actor at all. For two guys, that's all the same movie.
Yeah, we're not a lot of info here.
We did a ton of research on it.
I'll figure it out. Angourie Rice. She's Australian.
And she did American accent, I guess, too. Unless she's like Australian, but
yeah.
Mel Gibson Australian.
Right, yeah. Like half Australian.
Right, and her next movie, she'll have a full accent.
Right. But yeah, like you said, so you can't really say anything without giving away like the plot. Like I said, they're looking for this girl, and like everything just starts taking a turn, and like stuff starts getting weirder and weirder, and the story starts getting more and more and more complicated. I think the best part about it is I thought that Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling had great chemistry together.
They were very good.
I thought they played off of each other very well. I thought the writing from Shane Black was very, very witty.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of very funny instances, some of which are shown in the trailer, which I hate. Like the part where he's in the bathroom stall was funny. I laughed, but I think if I wouldn't have seen it, because in the trailer you saw it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
I would have thought it was way more funny.
And the part with the old lady and the urn.
Right, yeah. So yeah, that part was good. I just thought the story was he got too cute, Shane Black, and I think he wrote it with somebody else. The story got too cute for its own good. They needed to stay more simple, and they tried to get really complicated with it, and it kind of loses you midway through, and then
the third act is a kind of a mess.
Yeah, the third act is a mess, and then like at the end, you're like, what is even the resolution here? Like,
right.
what are they even trying to accomplish now? Like, we've already like jumped the shark so many times that it's like, like you completely lose yourself.
Yeah.
But I think the performances definitely saved it. Like I said, the writing and the dialogue sense definitely saves it. It's definitely a movie worth checking out.
I thought that we were just talking about the girl that plays his daughter. Shane Black has a knack for directing kids.
Yes.
We talked about it earlier this year with Monster Squad, which was a movie he directed. Or he wrote. But he writes children's dialogue or young people's dialogue very well. And the kid who was in Iron Man 3 is also in this movie. He's the kid that the part where the car goes through the house.
Oh, right.
That's the kid from Iron Man 3, and I don't think he has any lines in this movie, but the kid from Iron Man 3 was great in Iron Man 3. When you're watching Iron Man 3 and that kid shows up, you're like, oh God, they put a kid in the movie. And he was fine. He was totally fine. And the same thing with this little kid. And in fact, if it wasn't for her, the movie would be not nearly as good as it is.
Yeah, you basically, when a kid is thrown into a movie like that, you basically want you to forget that it's a kid.
Right.
And you want her to just, him or her to just be a character. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what the girl does in this movie. She just becomes their like little sidekick throughout all this.
Yeah.
Rather than just being like, oh my God, like is this kid going to be around even more? Like, we're going to kill this kid off.
She's going to do something cutesy here,
right.
And
so that definitely worked.
And another thing that I want to watch the movie again. Like I'm going to give it some time and watch it again, probably like a year or so, because the movie Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which is another written and directed by
I've never seen.
Shane
Never
Black.
seen that.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah, I've heard.
But I didn't really care for it the first time I saw it.
Okay.
But I've seen it a few more times since then, and I love it. I absolutely love it. And it's kind of the same thing with Iron Man 3, where you need to see the whole picture before you can really appreciate the individual scenes.
Right.
So hopefully it's the same with this movie. Like if I go back and watch it again, I'll appreciate it a little more, and maybe that third act makes a lot more sense. But when Kim Basinger showed up, I was like, what the hell is happening right now?
Yeah, it definitely just goes a little too far down the rabbit hole with the twists and turns, where it just should have just stayed very basic and just, played off the two characters having such good chemistry together. Yeah, the missing person story was interesting enough. It didn't need the whole government conspiracy part of it. I agree with you. I thought that the Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling were terrific. Yeah. I would love to see the two of them in another. Russell Crowe does comedy
together.
Does comedy good, and the few times he's ever been in a comedy.
Oh, what else was he in that was a comedy?
I don't know. There has to be. This can't be his first foray into comedy, right? I'm trying to think.
I feel like there's something else. Robin Hood.
Definitely not a comedy.
No.
Let's see. Russell Crowe.
Again, we did a lot of research.
Right.
Going
his
into
whole
this.
filmography, we all know.
Gladiator was pretty funny. The Insider was pretty funny. The Insider is a great movie.
The Insider is one of my favorite movies of all time. Yeah, I guess, really doesn't have many comedies on his belt here. So no, this is probably his first.
Wow. That's surprising. He was surprisingly deft at it. Maybe it was just the writing and the two of them, the chemistry between the two of them, but it was a very entertaining movie. It's just that the end of it, the third act is really.
Yeah, it's a mess, and maybe like we said, maybe it will make more sense if you watch it again. But yeah, I was definitely lost throughout some parts of it, but whatever.
Yeah, definitely worth watching. So this week, I watched the movie Moneyball for the 400th time. Moneyball is directed by Bennett Miller and stars Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill. It's about the 2002.
I think that's right, yeah.
It's either 2001 or 2002-2003 Oakland A's baseball team. And it's about the story of Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill basically changing the game of baseball into what it is today.
Right.
Which is a game based on
sabermetrics.
Yeah. It's all numbers and algorithms and math and putting. It's very complicated. I don't understand it.
But you don't even need to understand. That's how good this movie is.
Exactly.
You don't need to understand sabermetrics at all.
You don't even have to understand baseball really to understand it. Everything in the movie really works, and it's a script that I think was co-written by Aaron Sorkin, and but it's not dominated by Aaron Sorkin's style.
It's based on a book.
Well, it's based off of a book, but the book isn't a narrative. It's just like a history kind of book, like a nonfiction kind of thing. And the Jonah Hill character doesn't exist in real life. He's a combination of 3 different guys.
Right. One of those guys is now with the Cleveland Browns.
Oh, really?
Because the Cleveland Browns are going in this direction.
With football?
With football. They're like the first ones to get into with football, which didn't work out for them very well this past weekend.
No. Go Eagles.
But yeah, that guy, one of the guys that he's based on is now with the Cleveland Browns. Sorry to digress on that.
No, that's fine. One of the things I think I really like about the movie is, one, the story. I think the story is perfect. It's a baseball. I think the best baseball movies are the ones where baseball is kind of the backdrop of it. Like this, The Sandlot is one of the best baseball movies ever made, and there's not even like a baseball game at the end. Like the end of the movie is just these kids trying to get a ball. This movie, it's not really a big spoiler alert. Let's say spoiler alert for the 2002 Oakland Athletics.
It's a true story.
They don't win the World Series, and but the movie isn't. The story isn't about them not winning the World Series. It's about a team
with absolutely no shot of doing anything.
Yeah, creating an opportunity for themselves to succeed, where everyone expects them to just be a last place team until they get enough first round picks to compete again. And what they do is, like, using Jonah Hill's algorithms on players, they put together a very cheap team to compete against basically the New York Yankees, who are the most expensive team in baseball. And it's a beautiful film. I think it looks amazing. The direction and the cinematography and the music all work in this beautiful way. It's such a beautiful film. One of my favorite all-time lines is from this movie, where it's hard not to be romantic about baseball.
But yeah, it's crazy. Like the one character I love in the movie is Philip Seymour Hoffman, rest in peace.
Yeah.
He plays the manager, and he's just like at his wit's end. Like they keep taking every good player off this team.
Yeah,
and he's like, what do you want me to do? Like, I have nobody to work with. And Brad Pitt is just like, trust me.
Right.
Just trust me.
I think one of the things about the Philip Seymour Hoffman character in the greater scheme of the story is, if you're into baseball, there's not a lot of stories between management of baseball and then like the GM, like the people who run the team.
Right.
And then the manager of a baseball team, who's the guy who sets the lineup and puts which players where he wants to go. And the dynamic between Billy Beane, who's Brad Pitt, and Art,
I forget what his name.
Philip Seymour Hoffman's character, is so harsh, because Billy Beane, and they address it early on in the movie, is Billy Beane doesn't tell anybody what his plan is, which is to put these seemingly terrible players in with into their lineup. Like, he's going to put a catcher who can't throw at first base because he can walk a lot. And if you get on base, you're going to score runs. And that's basically the goal of the team. The goal of the team is they got to score so many runs over the course of a year. And if they score this many runs, they'll make the postseason. And the manager is an old school baseball guy. And he's like, no, we need to bunt. We need to steal. We need to, like, sacrifice and all this stuff. And so you have the old school baseball guys fighting with the new school baseball guys, and it's this great dynamic. And
yeah, like even like the scouts.
Yeah.
When he's in the scout room and he's like, yeah, I think this guy's got potential. He's like, well, what's his average? Oh, it's this. He's out. Like everything. He's just throwing. Brad Pitt is just taking what Jonah Hill is giving him, and he's just throwing everything out the window. And all these old school baseball guys are looking at Brad Pitt like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And like he just points to Jonah Hill. This is Pete.
Yeah. This is Pete. Pete, do we want this guy? Yes, we do. Why do we want him? Because he gets on base. There's our guy. And all the old school scouts are like, what are we doing here? I don't understand any of this. What's Fabio? It's just a great inside look into how baseball, what I feel like how baseball really works, where when you have a team that struggles. I think we're from the Philadelphia region. We've had our struggles with our sports teams.
Right.
And I think the general thought most of the time is that they're not trying to win, or like, what are they doing? You know, they're making all these bad decisions when every season really is a gamble. You know, like you're getting all these guys and you're making a bet. And what they do in this movie is, or what Billy Beane does in this movie, is he takes a risky bet where if it fails, he's going to lose his job and he'll never get another job in baseball again.
Absolutely.
And spoiler alert, it works. And
he's still the general manager of the Oakland A's.
Yeah.
And sabermetrics is used by pretty much every team in the MLB.
Yeah.
To some extent, some teams way more than others, but every team pretty much uses it when they're
the Phillies like the last ones to adopt it. Yeah.
When they're evaluating players.
Yeah. So it's a great inside look at baseball. Anytime I don't know what movie I want to watch, Moneyball keeps popping in my head. I'm pretty sure it's in my top 3 movies.
It's
top 3 or 4 movies.
In terms of sports movies, it's definitely in my top 3. Top 5.
It's just a great movie. It's very witty. It's very quick. It's funny. Jonah Hill is excellent in the movie. Brad Pitt is excellent. It's just the kind of movie you can watch 1,000 times and just really enjoy. So I highly recommend Moneyball.
Yeah.
Definitely check it out if you haven't seen it. Tony, what? Oh, you're not here.
Tony.
So Ray, last week we had our 2
questions.
Random requests.
No,
we had
one Ray's random request. One Tony's. What's Tony's?
Tony's third degree. Yeah,
third degree.
Not a lot of action this past.
Come on, guys.
It's a tough question. I can't fault anybody, but Matt P from Montana came through
all the way from Montana.
He gave you 2 answers.
The Mountain State
for your. Well, he gave Tony 2 answers. So Tony's question was, what's a scene that is really a scene or a movie that's really advanced by the dialogue in it, or like a really powerful dialogue scene that you really enjoy? And he says that Inglourious Bastards, anything with Hans Landa, which is the Christoph Waltz character. Yeah. But he says that's too easy, because he's right. That character is amazing. The opening scene of Inglourious Bastards is
absolutely incredible.
Yeah. So he also goes on to say the opening scene of American Psycho, which is great. And then
love that movie.
And then he says the business card scene later on in the movie are just 2 great examples of dialogue. I think the card scene works a little more because the opening scene is, I think, a monologue. But Patrick,
when he's talking about like how his routine.
Yeah. After applying the salt scrub to my face, I then vigorously apply the aloe rub for 20 to 45 seconds. And then to answer your question from last week, which was, what's a movie that takes place in one main setting?
Right.
He says 127 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean that movie. I mean that even if you go there, I feel like that makes the question even easier. I feel like there's a lot of movies that take place like maybe like in a house or like around a house in a jail, So like I was thinking like The Last Castle is a movie that takes place in a jail. Shawshank Redemption is a movie that takes place in a jail.
I really liked The Last Castle.
Yeah.
When I saw it, yeah, it's got its issues, but it was good.
I was thinking of a movie that I watched and talked about on the podcast a couple months ago, The Invitation, which is a movie that takes place solely at a dinner party. A movie called You're Next, which I don't know if anybody's ever seen. It's the same directors of the new Blair Witch movie that's coming out this weekend.
They directed You're Next?
Yeah.
You're Next is supposed to be pretty good.
You're Next
right?
is awesome. Definitely should check Your Next out.
Okay.
I'm actually might even watch that this week and talk about it next week since Blair Witch is coming out. But that's a movie that takes place, same thing, at a remote house in the mountains the entire time. But yeah, so there's a lot of good ones. And
I just thought of one. Ex Machina.
Yeah.
Takes place in like 4 different scenes.
Yeah. 4 different rooms, basically.
Yeah, really. Yeah, that's what I mean. 4 different settings.
Yeah, so there's a lot of good ones. I'm surprised people didn't have many answers, but whatever.
Ray's disappointed in all.
Yeah, I am.
He's pretty upset about it right now. Ray, do you have a Ray's request?
Yeah, this is a pretty simple one. Maybe a little easier one for the folks out there. I've been trying to spice it up because the past, when I first started this question, the questions have been pretty lame, so I was trying to spice it up. But this week's easy. What's your favorite sports movie?
Oh,
because
okay.
we were saying Moneyball is definitely in our top sports movies. My favorite sports movie of all time is Friday Night Lights.
Really?
Yeah, not the TV show, the movie. I think that's just a perfect movie all around. Definitely encapsulates high school Texas football and high school football in general.
I liked Friday Night Lights. I didn't like it as much as a lot of people did, but I've only seen it the one time, but everybody seems to really like it. I feel like I need to see it again.
But yeah, there's a lot of good sports movies out there. So yeah, what's your favorite sports movie and why?
I have to think about that. It's probably The Sandlot.
Yeah, well, The Sandlot's up there.
You can't say The Sandlot. Anything? What's your favorite sports movie besides The Sandlot? Because everybody will say The Sandlot.
All right, that's fair.
Yeah, all right. Great question, Ray.
Yeah.
Well, that'll about wrap up the show. Do you have any plugs this week, Ray?
I don't have any plugs this week.
Okay. Well, I would like to say if you're listening to us on the Podcast Radio Network, thanks for tuning in. You can catch us here every Wednesday night at 10:30 following the podcast Let's Talk Flicks. Or you could check us out on podcastradionetwork.net or on the Crikey app, KRY.
Crikey.
You can also find us on SoundCloud, Twitter, Stitcher, iTunes, YouTube. Connect with us on Facebook and did I say Twitter already? Twitter,
Twitter
and
with an A.
Check us out at thisweekinfilmpodcast.com. We just got done creating a movie page for all the movies we watched. So if you want to look at that, you can.
And maybe answer the question this week.
So that'll about do it for this week. I came up with a new end for the show, Ray.
Oh, you did?
It's
Thank
worse.
God.
It's much worse than the other one. So if you're still in the theater and the weird-looking blue R-rated movie thing is on the screen... You know when you're in the theater and when you stay to the very, very end of the credits and sometimes it tells you what the movie was rated?
Oh, yes.
But it's in blue?
Yeah.
I don't know what you would call that other than how I just described it. We'll see you next week in film.